James was a successful businessman, known for his sharp mind and ruthless decisions. He had everything: wealth, power, and influence, but something was missing. Deep down, James felt an emptiness that he couldn't fill with money or success. His heart was restless, and his life, though glamorous on the outside, was crumbling from within. One evening, James received devastating news. His wife, Sarah, was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The doctors gave her only a few months to live. James, a man who always had control, now found himself helpless. As Sarah's health deteriorated, James threw himself deeper into work, trying to escape the pain at home. Despite his efforts, the emptiness only grew. He began to lose his temper more often, his relationships with his employees and friends became strained, and his business started to suffer. He turned to alcohol to numb the pain, and soon, the man who once had it all was spiraling into despair. One night, after a particularly heavy drinking session, James found himself alone in his office, staring at the empty bottles scattered around him. The weight of his failures and the impending loss of his wife crushed him. In that moment of darkness, he felt utterly alone. But then, a memory surfaced, something Sarah had said to him before she got sick. She had always been a woman of faith, often praying and reading her Bible. She once told him, "James, no matter how much you have, without God, it all means nothing." Those words echoed in his mind, and for the first time in his life, James felt the need to pray. He fell to his knees and cried out, "God, if you're there, I need you. I can't do this on my own. Please help me." From that night, something changed in James. He didn't become perfect overnight, but he began to seek God, reading the Bible Sarah had left on her bedside table. He started praying regularly, and though life was still hard, he found a peace he had never known before. As he spent more time in prayer and reading the Word, James began to see life differently. He started treating his employees with kindness, reaching out to old friends, and most importantly, spending as much time as possible with Sarah. She noticed the change in him, and it brought her great comfort in her final days. When Sarah passed away, James was heartbroken, but he wasn't alone. He felt God's presence with him, giving him strength and hope. Through his grief, he realized that Sarah's faith had given her peace even in the face of death, and he wanted that same peace. James continued to build his relationship with God, and his life began to reflect the transformation inside him. He started attending church and eventually gave his life fully to Christ. The emptiness that had once consumed him was filled with God's love and grace. James used his business to bless others, giving generously to those in need and using his influence to make a positive impact. He became known not just for his business acumen, but for his kindness and integrity. The story of James's life became a testimony to the power of God's grace. He realized that all his success and wealth were nothing without God, and that true fulfillment comes from believing in Him. James's journey shows that no matter how successful or powerful we may be, there's a void in every human heart that only God can fill. It's easy to rely on our own strength and abilities, but when life's storms hit, we realize how much we need a savior. Through his trials, James discovered the importance of faith and the peace that comes from believing in God. His life became a powerful example of redemption and the transformative power of God's love.